Hi everyone, my name is Prasitha, and I've been one amongst the myriad frontliners who have been involved in this COVID-19 fight. What is it actually like on the front line? Well, I'm sure all of our experiences are bound to be quite different. For me personally, it's been quite a learning journey on a personal front, on a professional front, and definitely on a community front as well. Now, all healthcare workers at some point in time have been trained for such a unprecedented pandemic, but it's a whole different ballgame altogether when that arrives at your doorstep. Healthcare institutions have had to adapt quite drastically since that first case of the Wuhan coronavirus landed and was detected in Singapore. For me as well, everything changed. My work schedules changed, my working environment changed. We had to adapt to new protocols, and personal protective equipment, or PPE, became my new, hashtag outfit of the day. On a personal front as well, there was definitely some level of fear. Now, fear not so much about contracting the virus myself and falling ill, but was I going to bring this back home? Was I going to bring this back to my family? And so constant hypervigilance became a norm for me as well. And it was mandated. And now just as at work we have clean and dirty teams, sometimes we have clean and dirty environments or clean and dirty areas. I had a clean and dirty bag. I have a clean and dirty pair of shoes. And I would always have a shower after I was done with my shift before I came back home to my family. And so this is now going to be the new norm for me, as it has become the new norm for many people. But I will continue to do so for the safety of my family, for the safety of my fellow frontliners, for the safety of my patients, and for the safety of my community as well. But when I think about it, in fact, we're actually all frontliners in that sense. What's been very heartening to see is that as everyone continues to maintain a healthy level of social responsibility, that the effects that we're seeing in the community are palpable. And so as I continue my work on the front line, and as the community continues being socially responsible and adhering to the measures that are in place, I strongly believe that, you know what, we've got this. Everything is going to be okay.
Hi everyone, I'm Vidya Pillai and I'm a resident physician in geriatric medicine in Singapore. The COVID-19 pandemic has brought the world to a screeching halt in a big way and has accelerated the need for healthcare services across the globe. Healthcare workers have been risking their own lives and working non-stop since the start of this pandemic. Many of them have lost their lives in the course of doing so as well. I've been working in the acute medical wards, and although I've been doing this sort of work for a decade, it has been very different during a pandemic. Donning the full PPE for each patient, breathing through an N95 mask for almost 12 hours a day, developing pressure injuries from the N95 mask, isolating yourself from your colleagues during meal times, staying home after work without being able to visit family and friends. It takes a toll, physically, mentally, and emotionally. I go to work every day with a bit of anxiety, not knowing which patient is going to turn positive, and whether that means I will have to go into quarantine. So I assure you, it's not fun. But apart from the technicalities day in and day out, I've had time to reflect on what COVID-19 has taught me. Before COVID-19, we lived in a world that we took for granted. A long weekend meant having to travel somewhere instead of just staying at home, and air travel became a necessity rather than a luxury. We stopped cooking and eating fresh food, and instead we went to restaurants and cafes that were always packed to the brim. Mother Earth probably decided if she didn't do something about it, we would lose her forever. So with the COVID-19 pandemic, with all of us being forced to stay at home, with borders being shut and travel restricted, she's healing herself for our good. I'm sure many of you have watched videos of animals coming out into the city centers, dolphins returning to the canals of Venice, crystal clear water flowing through the Ganges River, clear, clean skies with stunning sunrises and sunsets, etc., etc. I, for one, definitely want this healing to continue and last. Each one of us has to behave responsibly for ourselves without losing our autonomy of our ethics and morality that has to coexist with the morals and ethos of the country that we live in. So for the sake of everybody, even after the lifting of restrictions, by washing our hands regularly, wearing our masks, maintaining a social distance, and being more aware of and sensitive towards nature, and reducing pollution and the waste that we generate, we can overcome COVID-19 and ensure that we preserve this beautiful planet for generations to come. So please stay home and stay safe. Thank you.
Swagatham, Namaskar, and good day everyone. My name is Vignesh Shanmugam, and I'm a member of the SMA Youth Wing. Today, together with my medical colleagues on the front line, I'd like to share a little bit about my experience in this COVID-19 pandemic. This pandemic has without doubt impacted people's lives on a very personal basis. It's taxed our healthcare sector, it's impacted jobs, and it's placed unforeseen challenges to each and every one of us on a daily basis. The SMA and its youth wing have put together a number of programs, just like this one, to raise awareness and funds for those who have been affected by the pandemic. So if you would be so generous to contribute to this, we would be grateful. Details will be in the link below this video. We are all well aware about how this pandemic has taken a toll on physical health. It has cost many lives around the world, with others having urgent medical care and treatment. The longer this battle drags on, the more the impact on one's mental well-being and psychological health starts becoming more apparent. This includes an increase in depression that we're seeing amongst people over the medium to long term, especially in this prolonged period of recession. Those with pre-existing conditions like anxiety, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, as well as our socially isolated seniors are especially vulnerable. But even those without are starting to feel a discernible impact. With isolation at home, we're also starting to see an increase in family violence that is causing anxiety and distress in victims and witnesses. Just within the last couple of months, I've met patients who have had increasing anxiety that their elderly parents may get COVID-19, and this worry on its own has led to symptoms of insomnia, difficulty breathing, and even experiencing obsessive-compulsive behavioral symptoms like repeated hand washing every 5 minutes. 2 days ago, I met a 40-year-old business owner who was so distressed over her company's survival and having to lay off the staff that she would actually cry daily after team meetings, and she wasn't able to get any sleep at all. Just last month, the Straits Times reported a teenager with depression who ended her own life due to pre-existing poor relationship with her parents, whom she was isolated with. And the key message here is that she felt like she had no help available. I would like to leave you today with 2 messages. The first probably is the most important, and that is that help is always available. Isolation does not mean that you're alone in this. If you need help, be it someone to talk to, be it difficulty coping with low mood or physical or emotional violence, please, please, please go see your family physician. There are multiple agencies today that are there to help, and these are a few hotlines that you can call. The first is the National Care Hotline, which is at 1-800-202-6868. For mental well-being, you can also call the Institute of Mental Health's Mental Health Helpline at 6389-2222. There is also the Violence or Abuse Hotline, which is the PAVE Integrated Services for Individual or Family Protection. You can call 655-0390. For counseling issues or simply someone just to talk to, you can call Touchline at 1-800-377-2252. For elderly issues, there is the Agency of Integrated Care Hotline at 1-800-650-6060. All these numbers are readily available. If you just Google them, they're readily available on the internet. But if you need help, please go to your family physician and they can direct you to the right person. The second issue, or rather the second message that I would like to leave you with today is simple. Be kind. I know people want to act as enforcers. I understand that. It's natural for people to feel afraid and anxious. But what we need today is to support one another. When you go home tonight, check on your neighbors, give them a call, start a list of phone contacts with your loved ones and family, and plan on how you will keep in touch with each other. We will get through this together, but only if we stick together. Thank you very much. Be strong and be kind.
Hello, my name is Vivekan. I'm a newly minted medical officer, and my experience during this COVID-19 period is that there's two things. So there's the uncertainty, because you never know when you might come across a patient who is COVID positive. We, as a HR a few months back, we used to do a lot of nasopharyngeal swabs for the COVID-19 test, and you never know when you might come into contact with a patient who is positive. But you have to do the job, right? You just wear the PPE, you go in and do the swab, get out, dispose of it properly, and you do your hand hygiene. You follow protocol, you don't back out because it's your duty. Second was the workload. You could have a patient, you could have a ward full of patients, and you can discharge 2 to 3 in the morning, and then by the afternoon, all the beds are filled because the hospital's facing so much of a bed crunch. When you have all these patients coming in with all these simple symptoms but who could be COVID positive. But with your colleagues and your bosses who are nice, you work through it. It's you encourage each other and you motivate each other, and hopefully we'll be out of this soon. Us, the healthcare workers, and the whole of Singapore together. Yeah.
I'm ophthalmology in training in Northampton, England. The pandemic has basically changed the way we all interact with one another, and it also has left a lasting impact on the medical field. Being ophthalmology trainee myself, some of my colleagues were transferred to the medical ward or the COVID ward if they were specialized enough to take patient care in those situations, whereas myself, I was based in the ophthalmology ward to continue care for sight-threatening disease and carry on seeing patients via telephone conversation and also video link before we brought patients back in. Being in the medical profession, what I can see is this pandemic has basically changed the way we move forward in patient care by limiting the numbers, reducing the interaction between patient and doctor in the same room, social distancing until a vaccine is found. Till then, we will all be facing a new way of life. Until then, stay safe.
Hello everyone. Thanks Vince for giving me this opportunity to say a few words. The COVID pandemic crisis, to say the least, has affected many countries and many lives. It's affected the way we do our day-to-day routine, the way we communicate with each other and interact. Businesses and industries have had losses and as a result had redundancies. Mental health and domestic violence and suicide risks were on the high. And while the world grapples with this virus pandemic, New Zealand, tucked away in one corner of the planet, was not spared either. We had one of the strictest lockdowns ever. Everything was closed except for pharmacies, grocery stores, medical centers and hospitals. It also shows that the virus didn't spare anyone, whether you were rich or poor, or social status you had, the color of your skin, the religion you practiced. No one was spared. For me personally, being a medical professional on the front line in New Zealand, everything had to change. Workflows had to be modified. Elective cases were cancelled. Medical healthcare workers were redesignated to different areas. Going to medical primary care was a very different experience. Having phone consultations and video consultations had its limitations because you had to use your imagination to understand what the patient was saying, or if they had to show a lesion, the resolution was not fantastic as well. So it was a very uncharted territory, but it was a necessary one. Getting up and getting ready for work, you felt that sense of vulnerability, and at some days you feel scared because you're not sure what you're facing, and that's the greatest fear, not knowing who your enemy is. But then, waking up in the morning, my wife had to prepare breakfast, lunch and tea because everything was closed. no takeaways, no takeaway coffee, no takeaway lunch. You had to eat everything, you had to do everything from home. So in a way it was good. You didn't have to indulge with fast food, which was very good for your health. But again, you get the extra perks as well. You know, I cycle to work, I take the train, I take the bicycle, I take it up, bring it to the train. Everything was free of charge. Roads were empty. You get to work fairly quickly. You show your ID, you skip the long queues at supermarkets. So you had your perks. But again, but when you came home, because you came home, I had to get my family to go into the rooms when I come in, because you need to undress and shower, and you know, because I had a young daughter, so you had to be extra cautious. And plus, you see what's happening in different countries, and you know, and medical staff being infected, and some of them had their lives taken away in spite of being in PPE. So you had that sense of anxiousness. It was just a very different level of stress. But at the end of the day, it shows the fragility of society and humans. But at the same time, you see the resilience in the human race, which is amazing. In New Zealand, we are currently in level 2, and it seems that we're coming on the other side now. We haven't had cases for about 9 days consecutively, which is really good. But yeah, it's an evolving time, and the way we practice, the way we're going to do, the way we practice, and how society is going to evolve from this is going to be totally different. Everyone's going to remember 2020. I'm not sure why it's called COVID-19, but 2020, no one's going to forget this year. And like how you have BC and AD in terms of the time period, we're going to have before crisis and after crisis. Whether it's going to be for the good or for the worse, only time will tell. But it's going to be an interesting future. But anyway, stay safe, be kind to each other. Thank you very much.
Hi there, my name is Dr. Maitri Kapagantula, and I work as a family doctor in Ottawa, Canada. I've been working here for about 5 years, and I went to medical school with Dr. Vidya Pillai, who asked me to make a short video to tell you about the experience of family medicine and how it's been affected by the COVID pandemic. Since the onset of the pandemic, our medical system, which is a publicly funded system, has quickly shifted to the provision of virtual care. For now, family medicine visits are 95% virtual, which means on the phone or by video. There are some cases where we might need to see someone in person for something urgent or for something that shouldn't be missed, such as childhood vaccinations or injections of medications that are essential. So for those visits, we still don some PPE, but overall, everyone's happy to be seen by phone and stay safe at home. For family doctors, we have had to pivot and adapt very quickly to a new way of practicing medicine. Even though we are fortunate to be able to do this by phone, unlike a procedurist, it does mean that figuring out how patients can get tests, labs, these kinds of things done in a safe and timely manner, and then explain this to the patient, emailing them paperwork, or getting it to them by some other means, especially with our geriatric population who aren't so tech savvy, it's certainly a challenge, and there's a lot of sitting on the phone and at the desk, which of course isn't great for your physical health or mental health at the end of the day when you're used to seeing people in person. Overall, I would say that we are coping as a community, and at an individual level, it means taking the time to rethink how you take care of yourself and how you manage your time with your family or with your own needs, because it's really easy to get lost in the management of your practice when it takes over your mind and you're so immersed in getting updated on the information as much as possible. But I do feel like the community of physicians in Canada and in Ontario have really come together to support each other and be there for each other, because that's the only way we're going to be able to continue to give the care that we need to our patients. And overall, I would say our patients have been extremely appreciative and grateful. However, we are worried and anticipating the backlog of major surgeries and treatments that have been delayed for a couple of months now, because in a public healthcare system, there's already such a wait list for many procedures. So the reopening is going to be the next big challenge for us to manage, but it's going to be on us to continue to cope and adapt and be as plastic as possible. But it's definitely teaching us some new skill sets that we would have never seen coming even a few months ago. I hope this was a helpful and informative little message for all of you, and I hope you all stay safe and well where you are. Thanks.